every one of you feel welcome. So sit back and relax as we present to you this program. Thank you.
Good morning. I'll be the song leader today. And I'm going to start. The first song we're singing is Yield Not to Temptation. Really? Yield not to temptation, for healing is strength. His strength will help you some other to win. My strength will be all to God, heavens subdue. Look ever to Jesus. He will carry you through. Ask the Savior to help you. Offer strength and He'll heed you. He is willing to aid you. He will carry you through. None like your passion that make present day. God's face always reverence. Nor take it in vain. Be thoughtful and earnest, right hearts and true. Look ever to Jesus. He will carry you through. Ask the Savior to help you. God for strength and keep you. Jesus is willing to aid you. He will carry you through. To Him never confidence, God given a crown. Through grace we shall conquer. Oh, trumpets and sound. He who is our Savior, our strength will renew. Look ever to Jesus. He will carry you through. To ask the Savior to help you. Not the strength and keep you. Jesus is willing to aid you. Jesus will carry you through. Amen. Our next song, we're going to sing Love Lifted Me. I was sinking deep in sin, far from the peaceful shore, very deeply sank within, sinking to rise no more. But the master of the sea so true. Everything flows that song. Faithful, every word is true to him. Belong. Love lifted me. Love lifted me. When nothing else could help. Love lifted me. Love lifted me. Love lifted me. When nothing else could help. Love lifted me. Soldiers, danger, above. Jesus completely saves. He's gonna lift you by his love out of the angry waves. He's the master of the sea. Billows and will obey. He's your Savior, want to be saved today. Love lifted me. Love lifted me. When nothing else could help. Love lifted me. Love lifted me. Love lifted me. When nothing else could help. Love lifted me.
Well, I made it up the stairs. Y'all may have to pray that I can get back down.
I'll be right up.
Thank you. Thank you. Would you all bow your heads with me, please? Our kind, loving Heavenly Father, we come today asking your blessings on our gathering as we fellowship with our sisters and learn more of your word. Father, we ask that you be with all the congregations that are represented here and bless them. Father, we ask that you be with Christy as she delivers the lesson to us, that we may become more kind to each other and courageous in our Christian life. Father, some of our families are dealing with a lot of illnesses and problems in their families. We ask your blessings on those that are suffering. We ask that you grant us the peace that passes all understanding as we deal with these problems. In your Son's name we pray, amen. I can make it.
Good morning, welcome. Thank you all for coming. I know everyone may have had other things they needed to do today, but they chose to come and be with us, and for that we are eternally thankful. I have the privilege and honor to be able to introduce our speaker, who is, I don't want to cry, has grown to be a very dear family friend. She has helped my daughter-in-law and my son, who live in Tennessee, as they welcomed our new granddaughter, which, by the way, she is in attendance. I will gladly be showing her off in just a little bit, okay, Miss Genevieve? But Christy Cook is the wife of Josh Cook. He's one of our congregational ministers at the North Jackson Church of Christ in Jackson, Tennessee. They've been married for 15 years and have 5 beautiful children, 3 of which are in the audience with us today. She left the boys at home. Canaan 10, Kaya 9, Carmody 7, Jude 5, and Jago 2. She is a graduate from Freed-Hardeman University in 2001 with a Bachelor's of Social Work. She went on to train in the U.S. Army, where she became an X-ray tech. She has worked in healthcare for over 15 years, 2 years as she began teaching health science at Gibson County High School in Dyer, Tennessee. She has been a Christian for over 20 years. She has participated in foreign missions to Fiji and France. She teaches regular Bible classes and has spoken at Ladies' Days and retreats as well. I'm tired just reading her bio. My goodness, I don't know. Plus 5 children. Christy is one of the 4 ladies who creates and writes for the Ruffled Mango blog and shop, which strives and teaches and practices the fruits of the Spirit. Well, please help me in welcoming our speaker for the hour, Miss Christy Cook.
Okay, tell me, yeah, that works. I can hear myself very well. So, there is a reason why women do not do this on a regular basis, why the Lord wants men up here on a regular basis, is because we cry all the time. You know, it's true. We can't get much out without our emotions getting in the way of us. I'm so happy to be here. I don't know if I need to, there we go. Let me just move it down a little bit. Okay, I'm so happy to be with you today. I could spend a very long time, talking about the Russells and the church here, and see, that's why we can cry about all this stuff. But I got to know this congregation because of Eric and Haley Russell, and those of you that helped with Eric and Sarah and the Russells all these years down here. I appreciate that, especially in this part of our country. You know, sometimes it's not like being in the Bible Belt in the middle of Tennessee, and I appreciate all the Christians here that work in the Deep South. And I actually lived in Louisiana when I was a kid for 2 years in Faraday, and so I understand a little bit of the culture down here, and I appreciate it very much. I want to thank the ladies that did the prayer and our song. That means so much. I don't know what I need to do. Do I need to move that or just step away? Maybe I'll step away. Okay. It's not working now. Let me turn it off and turn it back on. All right, okay. Okay, let's start over. Okay, all right. So anyway, thank you again for being here, and everything is so beautiful. I had given Crystal some ideas for topics, and one of them was have courage and be kind. And maybe you saw a few years ago the movie, the live action movie of Cinderella, and the phrase is from the real life movie Cinderella, not from the cartoon. But Cinderella's mother, who you don't see in the cartoons, she talks to her daughter, and this is some advice that Cinderella's mom gives her. And after I had seen that, I had been working with the girls in the youth group at our church, and we thought, we're going to have a girls' retreat, and it's going to be all about Cinderella, and this was the theme we chose. And then later, I translated it into a ladies' Bible class and divided it into the 2 topics. And it's something that can apply. It's not just for little girls. It's not just for teenage girls. It's for all ages of women. So hopefully today, the truths that we can find in this good piece of advice, we can find in the Bible. So I want to start with maybe some at least one familiar face. I know especially some of our older ladies are very familiar with John Wayne, but he was known to have said, courage is being scared to death and saddling up anyway, right? And being brave does not mean you're necessarily fearless. Being brave does not mean you're not afraid. being brave is doing it even when you're scared to death, right? And then, of course, Merida over there, that is another Disney movie. And I had to throw that on there because one of my daughters looks just like her, and she is quite brave. And I love that movie as well because she's such a strong character, especially for girls to watch. Something else, I just wanted to share a couple of things that I think about when I think of bravery before we start working out the details of the lesson. And I always think of the military, and I did join the Army, but I'm telling you, I am not like the veterans of old, okay? I will be the first to admit that. When you think about the World War II veterans, when you think about the men that came back from that, and the courage that they the courage that they showed, I get teary-eyed thinking about that. And I'm fascinated with history, military history, and I love documentaries about real-life heroes because they do exist. But one of the Army values is personal courage, and that is something they instill in you right at the beginning. And also in the military, you're considered a warrior, and they have what they call warrior ethos, and you can't read it very well maybe, but it's, I will never accept defeat, I will never quit, and I will never leave a fallen comrade. So those are items of bravery. So every soldier you see has had this indoctrinated into them that they are not going to accept defeat, and they're going to save as many as they can and go right into the battle. Like I said, I'm fascinated with military history. This man, Louis Zamperini, they made a movie about him based on a biography called Unbroken. This is a few years ago. True story, based on a true story. And I have a little crush on this man. He actually died a few years ago. He lived a very long life. He passed away in his 90s. But he was a troublemaker as a kid, but then his brother encouraged him to be a runner, and then he ran in the Olympics, and then he was drafted. And then he survived in the ocean for 40 days. Then he survived being a POW in Japan. And while he was, I don't know if any of you knew this, but during the war, during World War II, many soldiers that were POWs, they were taken to like the main cities in Japan, and they were used as propaganda. And they would say, well, you need to get on the news, on the radio, and you're going to get on there and you're going to talk bad about the country, and you're going to speak about America in a bad way. And if you do this, we'll give you food, we'll give you clean clothes, you can stay in our nicest hotel instead of being in a POW camp. And Louis Zamperini gets there, and he won't do it. He won't talk bad about his country. He won't do what they want him to do. And he is sent back to being abused, beaten, and starved at a POW camp. And he could have had all these luxuries, but he didn't do it. And that, to me, is one of the greatest signs of bravery, what he did. He gave up the pleasures of the world like Moses did. And so thinking along those lines, I want us to talk about these things today. The parts of life that I want to see you be brave in. There are many ways to exhibit bravery. You do not have to put on a military uniform and go to the front lines in battle to be considered brave. There are many ways that we can be brave. And so we're going to go through this first part of today. So our first one is going to be marriage. You want me to turn this one on? Okay. So just use this one? Yes. Okay. How is that? Do you hear that, or is it on? I need to probably get way down here to talk. Is that going to be okay? Is that what I need to do? Can you hear me right here? You can hear me right here? Okay, sorry, thank you. Okay, so first of all, we're going to talk about bravery in marriage. In Proverbs 12, verse 4, the Bible says, "A virtuous woman is a crown to her husband, but she that maketh ashamed is rottenness to his bones. We can make our husbands' lives miserable. And if we're Christians who believe in fidelity, we might use that against them. And that is something we should not do. Proverbs 21, verse 9, it is better to dwell in a corner of the housetop than with a brawling or quarrelsome woman. We do not need to be picking fights with our husband. If we know their weaknesses, we need to leave them alone. We don't need to put them in precarious situations to make them look wrong or bad and make us look right. They have egos. If you're married, you know that. And God gave them that for a reason. And if we damage that ego, they will not be the Christian man they need to be. So we need to be careful about how we communicate with them, how we treat them, and how we allow others to see them. Proverbs 21:19, it's better to dwell in the wilderness than with a contentious and angry woman. It's better just to be somewhere else, right? We have to be so careful, and we are emotional. We are. Women are emotional beings, and you know, it's good to get our emotions out and share, and I'm not saying not to talk to your spouse about your problems or what's going on, but we have to be very careful how we do that. We also don't want to embarrass our husband. You do not need to behave in a way that your husband would be like, oh my goodness, you know. You need to not humiliate him. So we need to be careful, whether in his presence or in his absence, right? In Ephesians 5:22 through 24, we've heard this before at marriage seminars. Wives, submit. And usually we just stop right there because we don't like that. We don't like that word. Submit yourselves to your own husband as to the Lord. For the husband's the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, and he is the Savior of the body. Therefore the church is subject to Christ. Let the wives be to their own husbands in everything. Okay, so I need to submit and be subject to him in everything. That's a tall order. I don't think that's very reasonable, Lord. You mean everything? Everything? So if I want to go to Target and spend all my money and not tell him, you know, I need to talk to him. It's my money. I made it. I work. I do make my own money. But when I decided to marry my husband, it became our money. And he's responsible for me just as I'm responsible for him, together, right? Submission is not degradation by any means. So we need to do this in the right way. We need to be respectful of them. And I say this is a part of being brave because a lot of women today don't do this. They're in charge. No man's going to tell me what to do. That's not what the Lord had in mind. And this is hard for me. I have a very strong personality, and I like my way. I really do. I like things done my way. I like to be in control. And I think the Lord did this for a reason. I think I needed to be humbled. I think this is why his plan is this way, to keep women in check. So we need to be so careful, and we need to be brave. And don't be afraid to say, well, you know, let me ask my husband about that. You mean you have to ask your husband? Yes. Yes. Don't be afraid to say, yes, I would like to get his viewpoint on the matter before I move forward with this. Right? Okay. The next area that we want, and I try to just stick in little quotes and sayings along the way, but I want to make sure we have time to talk. So next is being brave with your children. Now, I will say the first two, maybe you're saying, well, I'm not married. Okay, well, there's still something to be learned because maybe one day you will be. Or maybe you have friends or family that you need to support or counsel. Maybe you don't have children yet. Well, I don't have children, or I raised my children. Well, guess what? You have children around you. right? And you want to set a good example for them. Maybe you're a Bible class teacher. So we need to take all of these points and see how we can apply it to our lives. So children, are you brave enough to discipline them? We live in a world today where I just don't see it happening. I'm afraid I'm going to get arrested one day. If my child is misbehaving, we're going to take care of that problem right there. And you know what I mean by take care of it. I'm not going to argue with my child. They're going to do what I say. They don't have to explain, We don't want to hurt their feelings. Yes, I do. I do want to hurt my child's feelings. I want them to understand guilt. Because as a child of God, I better understand it. Right? It is the exact same. And I'll flip back here to that. I'm going to go on to Hebrews for a second. Hebrews chapter 5. I typed this one here. Hebrews 12, 5 through 11. Have you forgotten the exhortation which speaketh unto you as unto children, my son? Despise not the chastening of the Lord, nor faint when thou art rebuked of him, for whom the Lord loves, he chastens. We sing the song, right? Though he rebuke and chasten, right? Whom the Lord loves, he chastens. Scourgeth his son that he receives. That sounds harsh. If you do it once, I bet he won't do it again. There are things my children have done they will never do again because of the beating they got. And that's what I call it. If you endure chastening, God dealeth with you as sons. For what son is he whom the Father chasteneth not? Furthermore, we have had fathers of our flesh which correct us, and we gave them reverence. One of the reasons you discipline your children is to teach them reverence and respect. Right? It's the same with the Lord. You're the first version of God they will see. You, in a sense, are God to them. And if they don't respect you, do you think they're going to respect Jesus or the Lord? No. If you don't require things of your children, they are not going to care what the Lord requires of them. Okay? Shall we not much rather be in subjection to the Father of spirits and live? For verily a few days chasten us after their own pleasure. But he for our profit, that we might be partakers of holiness. Now, no chastening for the present seems to be joyous. It's not fun. And we shouldn't take pleasure in disciplining our children. Okay? It shouldn't make us happy to hurt them. But here's the deal. Nevertheless, afterward, it yields peaceable fruit of righteousness unto them which are exercised thereby. I see the fruit of all the times I spanked my children when they were 2 and 5, and I see that in my 10-year-old, who I haven't had to whoop in quite a few years. Because when you do it when they're like this, guess what? You don't really have to do it that much when they're older, and all of you that have little ones and teenagers and grown children, you know it, don't you? I say this. My daddy said this to me, and you learn a lot from your own parents. You're not going to embarrass me. I'm going to embarrass you. I'm not going to let my child embarrass me. I will snatch you up, and you're going to be the one. Right? And how about this? If your child does something to somebody and hurts them, and you apologize for them, is that right? No, you march right over here. You're going to be the one to apologize. I'm not going to apologize for your misbehavior. You are. And we need to teach our children that, right? And then guess what? Then you'll end up liking your kids. Right? You'll enjoy them when they're adults. My mom and I didn't care too much for my mom when I was a teenager. I'll just tell you, we clashed. We're a lot alike. That's why. But now we're very good friends. And I like that I can be friends with my mom as an adult. But are we supposed to really be friends with our children when they're small? Not really. No, I'm their parent. I'm their mom. I'm not. Too many women today want to, and then in fact, they want to look like their kids, right? And that's part of the problem. If you're 40, you don't need to look 20. And then we make our 10-year-olds look 20. Everybody's trying to look 20. Or 25, whatever. So it's wrong on both ends, right? So anyway, I can go on all day. Let me come back and let's look at a couple other things. We need to be brave enough to tell them no. It's okay to tell your kids no. It's okay. It's okay. You don't have to ask your children permission. Did you know that? There are a lot of Facebook posts today and blogs about, oh, you shouldn't make your kids do this, and oh, you should ask them if they feel. No, I'm the one who knows. They don't know. God put me in charge of them, not them in charge. We also need to be brave enough to tell them yes. Sometimes we got to let them go, right? Look, you think my parents were happy when I said I'm going to join the U.S. Army? No. But they let me go. And I cried in my daddy's night the night before I left, and it was okay. So sometimes we have to be brave enough to tell them, okay. And sometimes we have to, let me go back here. Sometimes we have to be brave enough to let them fall on their own face. Sometimes we have to be brave enough to let them deal with their own problem. So I teach high school now, right? And if kids have bad grades, the mama tries to come argue with me. I'm like, no, your child didn't do the work. When you get a job, and one day when I tell them, when you go to get a job one day, you think your mama is going to walk up to the hospital and help you out in your interview. And if you don't get the job, or in college, you think the professor is going to sit there and argue with your mom over your grade? No. Your mama cannot fight all your battles. So we have to train our children to fight them when they're little. So when they're grown, they can do it, and they don't. Oh, okay. The universities that have these little safe places, right? When President Trump was elected, and all these, and I don't, whatever your political agenda, I don't care, I do care, but I don't care who you voted for in the sense that it's, they had to have a place on some of the college campuses for kids to go, oh, I just can't handle it. Oh, you don't have to go to school today because of the president who was elected. You know what I did the next day? I went to work. Most of you all probably went to work, right? You couldn't take a sick day because you were upset about an election. I couldn't. But then we're going to let these kids, oh, poor thing, go over here and just, no. We have to teach our children how to be brave themselves. And this life is not going to always go your way, is it? Doesn't always go my way. In Proverbs, this is something else too about kids. I have had people ask, what's the best self-help book on raising children? Or, what, I have a very, excited child, and I can't, what I have found is all children are, rambunctious. They're a child, okay? My child's just really, okay, and they want me to give them an anecdote, or they want to send me to send them the name of some doctor, or the name of some whatever. You want to know the best place to go to learn how to raise your child? The book of Proverbs. And I usually say that to them. I try not to be facetious when I say it. But I'm usually like, why don't you start with the Bible? Are you a Christian? Why don't you start with the Bible? Because most non-Christians are going to tell you you don't have to spank your child. Yeah, I'm here to tell you. I have a degree in social work. There's a reason I don't do social work right now. But most people are going to tell you you don't have to discipline your child. Now, I do agree there are many ways to discipline. It is not just a whooping. Discipline is, no, you can't have this, or no, you can't go to that, or hey, you're going to go do this work to make up for your whatever behavior. But here's what I'm going to tell you that I know to be true. Eventually, you're going to have to spank your child. It will have to happen one day. It may only happen once, but eventually something's going to happen where nothing else will work. And I know this by experience and by observation. I walk in the store sometime and I'll say, well, I could help them out real quick. Some child's doing whatever. If they just let me have that kid for 5 minutes, we'll work this out. Then I would definitely be arrested. Okay. All right, so Proverbs, okay? A child is known by his doings. I'm not going to let my child embarrass me. whether his work is pure, whether it is right. Train up a child in the way he shall go, and he will not depart. Does that mean that they will never fall away? No. But do they know where to go if they do fall away? If you train your child right, they know how to come home. They know the path home, right? That's the point. That's the point, is you have trained them in such a way that when they're ready to come home, they know exactly what to do, okay? Foolishness is bound in the heart of a child. Children do not make good decisions. They don't know. That's why we are there to teach them, okay? But the rod of correction drives it out. And most of the world today want to take that right out of the Bible. I mean, even Christians don't believe this. And that really bothers me. Withhold not correction from the child. If you beat him with the rod, he shall not die. Some of you, I am sure, have suffered a lot. I got whooped a lot as a child. My husband is like almost perfect. I think he was whooped twice in his life. I was whooped almost daily. Thank God, child. You know? But, and now I will say, I'm not talking about abuse. Okay, I get that. I have family members that have suffered abuse. So there is a difference. And I know that. I know that. And children know it too. Children know the difference. The father of the righteous shall greatly rejoice, and he that begetteth a wise child shall have joy. I want to rejoice in my children, right? The rod and reproof give wisdom. A child left to himself brings his mother to shame. Shame on you for misbehaving. Your poor mama, right? How many times I've seen my parents cry and weep with mothers who have lost their children spiritually. Shame. And by the way, the Lord will look at us on Judgment Day. He'll look to the father first. He's going to look to dad first about this wayward child. Did the dad do everything he could? The prophet Eli had grown children. He couldn't manage his own children, right? After he looks to the dad, he's going to look to mama. And we're going to have to give account. Does that mean they're going to be saved? No, some children aren't going to, because they're going to make their own choices. But you better believe I'm going to do everything in my power to save my child. And the Lord is going to require that of me and my husband. I want to see you be brave in the church. Okay, Galatians 5. Brethren, you've been called to liberty. Do not use that liberty for an occasion of the flesh, but by love serve one another. That takes time to do that for each other. For all of the law is fulfilled in one word, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. If you bite and devour one another, take heed that you not be consumed. That is a very vivid picture. A lot of times churches cannot do their number one goal to teach and save the lost because they are so bent on hurting each other and whining and complaining about each other and gossiping about each other. They don't even have time to do what the Great Commission says to do. Churches split over it, right? Now, churches can split, and it can be for the right reason. We have to keep the body pure. But sometimes churches split, and I have heard, I don't really know why. It's just people couldn't get along. You mean it wasn't scriptural? It wasn't over doctrine? No. What is the problem? That's when we start acting like children, and that's why God has to chasten us, right? Galatians 6, 9 through 10. Let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we'll reap what we sow. And that's for good or bad, by the way. I'm sure some of our mamas have said that. Reap what you sow, right? Good or bad, right? In due season we shall reap if we faint not. If we have therefore opportunity, let us do good to all men, especially to who? And who is that? Christians. I better treat my brethren better than a perfect stranger. And some of us treat each other the worst. The church, so I teach health sciences, and I've worked in healthcare a long time. And one of the things that is a great faith builder is to study the human body, to study anatomy, okay, and physiology. And we have 11 body systems, okay? And all of them work together. And if one body system is compromised, it is not long that the other ones are compromised too. If you have problem with circulation, eventually it's going to affect your kidneys and your liver, not just your heart. It'll affect your lungs and your brain, blood clots, narrowed veins and arteries, right? So one body system can affect everything else. I teach a section on smoking. Smoking doesn't just affect your lungs. It actually affects every body system. So think about this in light of the church. If one part is affected, guess what? We're all affected, or we should be. So 1 Corinthians 12, 21 through 26 is what I have here. And the eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of thee. That's why I love King James. I love old King James. I have no need of thee. Nor against the head to the feet, I have no need of you. Much more those members of the body which seem to be more feeble are necessary. And those members of the body which we think to be less honorable, upon these we bestow more abundant honor, and our uncomely parts have more abundant comeliness. For our comely parts have no need. This beautiful outside part of our faces, our skin, the part that we think is pretty about somebody has less place than the inside, icky, gross parts we don't want to talk about, like our bowels, you know? I know, it's gross. Sorry, I like gross stuff too. For God hath tempered the body together, having given more abundant honor to that which is lacked, that there should be no schism in the body, but that the members should have the same care for one another. And whether one member suffers, all members suffer. If one member is honored, all members rejoice. So this rules out comparison. This rules out jealousy. I see this a lot in the church. We compare ourselves. We're jealous. We're envious of the way we look, what we have, what we drive, what we own. The poorest person in this country is more rich than the rest of the world. And I know this, and a lot of you know this too. We cannot leave each other out. This starts with children. I see parents who are snobs. If you are a snob, everybody know what a snob is. If you are an adult that's a snob, what do you think your children are going to grow up to be? Yes, I see it. It should not be normal for a 7-year-old to be a snob. That should not be normal. And I see it. I see it in my own congregation. And I just want to go over there and have a discussion with that child. Mean girls, right? I'll talk about mean girls later when we talk about kindness. But if you're that way as an adult, your children are going to end up exactly like you, especially your girls. If you are a snob and you're a gossip and you're mean, your babies are going to be the same way. Okay. Now, in work, try to get through some of these. Okay, try to get through these last ones a little quicker. So, in work, I want you to be good at your job. You should be the expert at what you do, whether you are the janitor or whether you are the principal or whether you're the transporter at the hospital or the physician at the hospital. You should do the best job of whatever skill it is you have. And do it and not be ashamed of your work. And while you're at work, you should have integrity. While you're at work, you should not be a gossip. And you know, a lot of Christian colleges, when they do their education classes for people that want to be teachers, they'll say, you may not want to hang out in the teacher's lounge. A lot of gossip goes on there, right? Lunch breaks. Those of you, no matter where you work, right? It's a good place for gossip, right? So we need to be careful. Also, we need to be ready to defend our faith at work. 1 Thessalonians, study to be quiet, do your own business, and work with your own hands. Colossians 3:23, whatever you do, do it heartily as to who? The Lord. You may think your job is not worthy. You may think it's pointless, but the Lord values hard work. He does not want lazy Christians in this world. Because think about it, if you're a gossip or lazy at your job, do you think they're really going to want to talk to you about Jesus? No. Excuse me. I might need some water. Thank you. Ephesians 6, with goodwill doing service as to the Lord. Okay. I throw in little phrases I find. I like this one. Be a voice, not an echo. Right? Okay. Okay, next with our friends. A lot of young people today, they want to be like their friends. Okay? They don't want to be original or authentic or different. Well, if we're raising our children to be Christians, guess what? They're going to be different. And our children need to be okay with that and even proud of that. Okay? We ourselves and then our children need to learn how not to hang out with the wrong people. This is not just for young people. Adults do this too. Thank you so much. If we associate and spend too much time with the world, and I'm saying you're not spending time with them to teach them about Jesus, but you're just spending time with them. They are going to rub off on you more than you rub off on them. So we need to be careful about the influences in our lives. We don't need to compare ourselves with our friends. We also don't need to be fair weather friends. Do you know what I mean by that? Like, I'm your friend because of what you can do for me. You know? And then when you're not doing this for me anymore, we're not really friends. Children do it. Teenagers do it. Adults do it too. Absolutely. Fair weather friend. That's what we call it. They're only your friend because it benefits them, makes them look good, or they get something out of it. So we need to be brave. We need to be brave let's read a couple of verses about it. Where are we at? Okay. Proverbs 17:9. He that covers a transgression seeks love, but he that repeats a matter separates friends. We don't need to be gossips, first of all. This does not mean that we're telling our friends sin is okay. It doesn't mean that we're condoning what they do. What this means is, I'm going to be here for you to help you crawl out of the hole that you're in. I'm going to be here for you. I may even be the one to point it out and tell you what you're doing wrong, so you'll repent and make it right. That's a good friend. That means we're going to support them in their good decisions, right? Proverbs 27:17. Iron sharpens iron, so a man sharpens the countenance of his friends. We need to make each other better. I need to be the kind of friend that builds up those around me and make each other better. A man that has friends must show himself friendly. It is kind of crazy to say that, and it shouldn't even be an act of bravery, just to be nice. Just be nice. Be friendly. You don't have to be everybody's best friend, but you can be nice to everybody, right? Don't be stuck up. Don't be a snob, right? Paul in Acts 27 stopped through his journeys, and it says he stopped in Sidon where his friends, they refreshed him. So we need to be the type of friend that can provide refreshment for each other, right? Okay. Okay, brave with yourself. And that might seem like an odd phrase. But Ephesians 3 talks about the love of Christ, that he will fill us with the fullness of God, and that he is able to do exceedingly, abundantly, above all that we ask or think. God is going to support you and lift you up and provide for you in ways that you can't imagine. But do you believe that? Are you brave enough to take risks as a Christian to do the right thing? Philippians 3:13 and 14. This one thing, so Paul, he says, forgetting those things which are behind, reaching forward to those things that are in front. We need to be brave enough to let go of things. Maybe that is a sin. Maybe it's something you've repented of, but you can't let it go. We need to be brave enough to say that God has taken care of it and put it behind us. And we're human, and this is hard. And we don't need to let others continue to put us down, especially for things we've overcome, right? We need to be brave enough to let go of the past and move forward. If God's forgiven you, then it's done. The matter's over. And this is very hard to do. And I do want to say this too about some of the points I have right there. Well, let me read this first. No, I want to read this first. Okay. So, are you brave enough to be pure? Is purity limited to young people? No. I am in wonder and awe of how many people I know that have suffered from affairs. And the majority of what I have found are the women leaving their husbands. There is a point of which you could track back that behavior and identify where we went wrong. And it's because they are not pure. We cannot. Purity is not just for young people to be taught. Adult women have to guard their hearts and their minds. Satan will attack in all kinds of ways. If you're unhappy in your marriage, you think Satan is going to pay attention to that? Mm-hmm. He is going to throw some movie star in front of you or some, Adonis to walk by you, and your heart is going to dim. So we need to be very careful as adult women, as young women, to guard our hearts. We need to be brave enough to say no to situations, to the books we read, to the TV shows we watch, to the friends we hang out with, and to the good-looking guy that we work with. We don't need to hang out with that guy if it's a problem. It happens in church, too. I have a good friend. Recently, there's a situation I found out, and she cheated on her husband. And I'm thinking, where, when, how, what did this happen? They're Christians. You mean that happens in the church? We need to be pure. We need to be brave enough to be faithful to our husband and to the Lord. Right? I want to read one last thing before we end this session.
There was a minister, his name is Parker Henderson. He died a couple years ago. He preached and worked at one of the Bible schools out in Texas. And back in 2001, I was working in the Bible department at Freed Hardeman as like a student worker. And he had written this little mini sermonette on a calendar of one of the teachers and one of the instructors, and he copied it for me. And I want you to listen to this and tell me if this sounds like someone that's brave. I am a member of the Church of Christ. I am committed to Jesus Christ as Jesus was committed to his Father. I'm a committed disciple of Christ. I'm a committed servant of Christ, a willing slave. I am a committed citizen in the kingdom of Christ. I am a committed brother of Christ. I am a committed soldier of Christ and his army. I am a member of the Church of Christ. There are things I'm committed not to do. Because I'm committed, there are places I will not go. I am forgiven of the past, blessed in the present, and full of hope for the future. I'm saved and committed in Jesus Christ. I'm settled in his body, which is his church. I cannot be frightened away by enemies. I will not be pulled away by friends or relatives. I shall not be bought away by money or position. I will not faint, fall away, or quit. I refuse to be silenced, stilled, or seduced. I will not give up, dry up, shut up, nor surrender. I do not have to have my own way in order to work. I do not have to be first, nor to be the one to get the credit for what is done. I refuse to be offended and quit, discouraged, and stop. I will not be so hurt as to join the next best thing. I do not have to be flattered to be faithful. I do not have to be honored nor commended to be dependable. I am committed. I do not have to be picked up, pumped up, nor pampered to attend services. Weddings, funerals, and ball games will not keep me from my appointment at the Lord's table. I love Christ. I love his word. I love his church. Anger will never make me quit, and offenses will never make me stop. When Christ comes, he will be able to recognize me, that I am one of his own. I am married to a committed one, and then he goes to talk about his family. I'm a soldier of Christ. I will fight. I'm a servant. I will serve. I am a brother. I will love. I am a son. I will obey. I am a believer. I will therefore speak. I'm a citizen in Christ's kingdom. I will be responsible. I'm a disciple of Christ. I will follow Christ. I'm a member of the Church of Christ. Therefore, I'm committed till I die. Now, does that sound like someone that's brave? Yes. And there was no better way to end that lesson than with that. So thank you. I'm sorry if that took longer. I'm sorry.
Ladies, we're going to take a brief 10-minute break. There's still some pastries and waters and such in the hallway and coffee. Help yourselves. We'll come back. And we'll have the second part of the session, and then we'll all join in a meal for lunch. So thank y'all, and I'll ring the bell to bring y'all back in.
I'm just going to keep this up here, I guess. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The next lesson won't take as long.
Oh, no, that's fine. Okay. It was great.
Oh, I never finished that last one.
Great.
Okay.
Look, if you didn't finish something,
I'll comment
come
back on one more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
do you like the screen up there that you can?
it's very helpful. Yes.
I was saying, it
Oh,
used
I
to
love
be
it 'cause
right
you don't have
here.
to- No, because that way you can look up at people.
Ladies, if y'all could please join us back in the auditorium. We're going to have plenty of time to continue fellowshipping and talking with one another during lunch. So with that, I'm going to welcome Christy to come back to do her second part, and we'll have some songs and a closing prayer and a blessing for our meal. Christy.
Okay, so round two. I kind of got ahead of myself, and I knew with timing, but I did want to mention one more thing about bravery before we talk about kindness, and that lesson shouldn't be as long. But thank you so much, by the way, of all the kind words in between in our break. I appreciate that. The last thing about bravery I did want to talk about just really briefly is to see you brave in the face of death. And would you be brave enough? You know, our Lord, let me find my notes back out here again. When we were without strength, Christ died for who? The ungodly, for us, okay? And he was willing to do that. And, you know, he is God, but he was a man, and he experienced pain. He cried, he wept over Lazarus. He wept over the lost souls that out looking at the fields, that are white in harvest. And he experienced pain all the way up to the cross. And it's interesting, in John 15, Jesus tells his disciples that greater love has no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. And you can't help but think about the military or first responders, firemen, policemen. They're the ones running in to the fire when everybody's running out, right? They're willing. Police officers are willing bulletproof vests. You know, firefighters are going into the fire. Any kind of civil servant that way has chosen this path, that they might die for usually strangers. And then the military, of course, and I never was put in the front line of anything. I was never deployed. I kept having babies. But I did choose and sign and swear to do that if I had to. But you know what? You don't have to be in the military to do that. If you're a Christian, you should be willing to die for the Lord. And in our country today, we just don't really see that. You know, I know we can think back years ago with Columbine, and the teenage girl apparently was saying, you know, I believe in Jesus. And the story goes that she was killed because, you know, they told her to deny Jesus. And if you've ever known missionaries that have been in foreign fields, maybe you've heard their stories. I have a missionary friend that spent 40 plus years in Fiji. And there was a time when he was literally run out of one of the tribes, and one of the local brethren, the Fijian brethren, was covering him up while they're running out of this civil law facility. And his brother was taking beatings with a rod and a whip while they were trying to drive them out. So his local brother was being beaten while they were trying to escape the local authorities. And this is in the Fiji Islands. There's a lady that did a lot of work in Haiti, and one of the churches in Tennessee supported her, and she was killed in the city where she had taken care of kids at a children's home. We just don't think about it here in the States, but it could happen, couldn't it? Especially with terrorism today, especially with just a culture that believes they don't do anything wrong and I can do whatever I want culture. The chances of you having to put your life on the line, I think, is increasing in our country. But this is a picture of, I don't know if you have sons, some daughters, because I love superheroes, but this is a picture from the Captain America movie. And Captain America is neat because he was kind of this puny little guy, and this is before he gets souped up into a super soldier, and they're all in training, and one of the drill instructors throws a grenade or drops a grenade to see what all the soldiers will do. And you've got all these big, huge, husky-looking soldiers, or, I'm big and bad and awesome. And the grenade falls, and all of these huge, strong, hua-hua soldiers is what I call them, they all run off. And Captain America, before he becomes Captain America, this little puny little guy is the one that jumps on the grenade to save everybody else. So you see, it doesn't take being some super soldier to be willing to die for somebody, okay? So, and everybody is in awe of him, and his instructors respect him because he's the one that would have saved everybody, and he was willing to sacrifice his life. And would we do that? I say I would do it. I hope I would do it. But anyway, I did want to point that out about being brave. And the greatest example besides Jesus, we know all the apostles, almost all of them but John, history would tell us were tortured or killed for the cause of Christ. But the stoning of Stephen has always stuck out to me. Because as Stephen is dying, what is he doing? He's looking up to the Lord, and he's praying in death. So if we are faced with death, we need to be brave like Stephen and be willing to die for Jesus if we have to, and be brave enough to say, I'm going to be with the Lord. This is what's happening right now. And so that's such a beautiful picture. Okay, so now let's talk about kindness. In Proverbs 31, the virtuous woman, I am sure you have been to many ladies' days and had many ladies' Bible classes, and maybe if you were younger or even older, I guess maybe one time in your life you tried to memorize the virtuous woman passage, and that should not make it any less meaningful because it is very powerful, okay? So Proverbs 31, verse 26, she opens her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. So the virtuous woman sets the standard of kindness, okay? The virtuous woman sets the standard. In this world of just everyone's out for themselves and mean girls and just gossiping and, oh man, social media and the news, everybody's so ugly to each other. And you know what I have found? Even if, and you have to talk about politics when you talk about this, even the side that I would agree with, they're just mean about it. Like, it doesn't matter. They're all mean about it. Like, does that make it right? Like, you can be right about something and God is still not pleased with what you're doing because of how you present and how you speak to those people. We need to be very careful about that. In this world of social media, what we put out there on our social media, the Lord, every accountable word will be brought out in judgment. Everyone that's accountable, every word is accounted for. So we need to be really careful, and we'll talk more about that as we go. But anyway, okay, kindness. When was the last time someone was kind to you? Now, we are at a ladies' day, so I'm sure this morning we have all been really super nice to each other and have behaved very well. But think about it. Like, when was the last time, somebody really did something nice for no benefit of their own, simply just to be nice? When was the last time the door was open for you? When was the last time somebody said thank you? You know what I mean? we just don't see it. In fact, kindness is so rare. People make Facebook posts like in awe of kind acts. And to me, it shouldn't be that way. Look at how sweet. Take whatever picture. They're feeding the homeless. They're, the people that are the most unlikely friends. And I'm thinking, why should this be something that we're in awe of? It should be like, well, yeah, that's normal. We should be kind, right? Like, why is this so rare? And that's why it's such a big deal on social media when somebody does something nice, because it's so rare. You see what I'm saying? Isn't that crazy? Okay. So I say to you, love. Oh, no, my second question was, when was the last time you did something nice for somebody else? You know? If you're a child at home, when was the last time you did the laundry for your parents without complaining? If you're a spouse, when was the last time you made your husband his favorite dessert? Or when was the last time you did something you know that drives him nuts and you didn't do that thing so he wouldn't be driven nuts that day, right? That's an act of kindness, right? Yeah. Every one of us knows what that is. You know, there's all kinds of things. So when was the last time you did something nice for somebody else? We're all quick to think about how others treat us. But how have I treated somebody else? You know, am I as nice to people as I expect them to be to me, right? Okay, so kindness. I mean, what in the world is, looking at that word, what does that mean? So these are some words I think just kind of all sum up kindness. Okay, considerate, tactful, complimentary. You are beautiful. You look so beautiful today. But not just looks. Let's compliment each other on our skill too. Or I love how you did this. Or I love the artwork you made for me, to your child or whatever. Or I love the key lime pie you made me or whatever. Genuine, okay? Kindness is genuine. And here in a little bit, we'll talk about what kindness is not, okay? So it's genuine, encouraging, thoughtful, and just friendly, right? So those are some descriptions. All right, we have quite a few verses we can talk about with kindness. So it's not something, we all know we're supposed to be nice as a Christian, right? We know it. But man, it can be hard to do. And guess what, though? Here's something. It's not a suggestion. It's not like God saying, this is probably how you should behave. It's a command. And I have a feeling there are going to be some really mean, angry, bitter women that are going to be surprised on the day of judgment. I am serious. There are going to be some women. I was at the church building every time the doors were open, and I never missed a service, and I made meals for so-and-so, and I did this, and I raised my kids. And she complained the whole time she did it. And I'm telling you, Lord she's going to be surprised. Because I don't think there's going to be any bitter souls in heaven. Do you? No. And I am as serious as a heart attack that is the case. So, let's see. Matthew 5, I say to you, love your enemies, do good to them that hate you, pray for them that use you. This is something I've been trying to do more. Is if there's we don't like everybody, that's okay. You have to love everybody, but some people are just hard to like, okay? I'm still going to be kind to them. And one of those things is, if this so-and-so person, I just am like, oh my goodness, okay. And it usually takes a lot for me not to like you, because I usually like everybody. But what I have tried to do is say, okay, this person who's just really getting on my nerves, or I'm having a hard time with, I'm going to pray for them. And then I'm going to go out of my way to do something nice for that person. And it kind of hurts my feelings to do it. But hopefully I learn from that experience. And maybe they're not so bad after all. And maybe I can help them with whatever is causing them to be whatever, bitter, mean, whatever. Okay, and then Colossians 3:12, put on as the elect of God, holy beloved, bowels of mercies, kindness, humbleness, meekness, long-suffering. Ephesians 4:32, this is one we know very well. Be kind to one another, tender-hearted. Do you see many people today that have tender hearts? No. People are just pushy and mean and outspoken. Tender-hearted, forgiving. Why? Because God forgave us. Who am I? Who am I? The Lord died for me. He died for you too. Everyone the same. So we need to be careful. Let's see. Now, why is it hard to be kind? Well, sometimes it's because we are selfish. If I'm always thinking about me, I'm really not thinking about a way to be kind to you. Okay? We're oblivious. Maybe we just don't recognize that somebody might need us. We're just totally walking through life unaware that people around us might need some kindness, you know? We're too busy. Are we busy today? I mean, busier than our world has ever been. We are too busy. Like, we are too busy. I think the Lord is going to hold us accountable for that too. Low self-esteem. If I have low self-esteem, I may not really think about how I can treat others kindly, because I'm really concerned if somebody's going to treat me kindly. And I'm not trying to be mean when I say this. But sometimes certain things make us keep focusing on ourselves so much, even if we think of it as self-care, that we are forgetting that one of the best ways to uplift ourselves is to do something for somebody else. The greatest book about mental health, you know what it is? The Bible. And that is also what I would recommend to somebody who struggles with depression, anxiety, and low self-esteem. We'll talk about being kind to yourself here in a little bit. So, popularity. I'm too cool. I'm too cool to be nice. Young people go through this. Young people would have to deal with this. I'm not going to go talk to that kid over there because he looks kind of, he doesn't look so, he doesn't have nice clothes, and, he's just kind of weird, and I don't want to look a certain way, and I want to keep up my standard of popularity, so I'm not going to go talk to them. And you know what? The children learn it from who? Their parents. If your child has never seen you talk to somebody that's sitting alone in the church building, do you think they're going to go talk to somebody sitting alone in the cafeteria at school? No. Gossip. If we are gossiping, no room for kindness there. Okay, that's a no-brainer. Complaining. If all I do is complain and grumble about everything, no room for kindness there either. Fear. I'm afraid. What will people think of me if I do this nice thing for this person? Unfeeling. We just kind of have a seared conscience about things. We just don't really care. We don't really think about others. Lack of a tender heart and lack of empathy. We don't really try to put ourselves in the shoes of somebody else. Okay? And I'm telling you, the generations coming up, okay, the selfie. Selfie. I know I look younger than I am. But when I was a kid, there were no selfies. You tried to get with your girlfriends like that, with the plastic camera that did not work. And then you'd cut somebody's head off because you didn't have that immediate feedback. of your picture, you know. There were no selfies in the 80s and 90s. That's pretty much all social media is today. Correct me if I'm wrong. So why in the world will we be thinking about it? Can we just have an othersies? I don't know how to say that. A non-selfie, you know? It's all about me, right? It's all about me. I tell my children a lot, it's not all about you. And the interesting thing about that is it is all about us, because Jesus died for even just one soul. He died for one. But when we realize it's not all about us, that's when it is about us. You know what I'm saying? It's a great irony, isn't it? It's a great irony. Kindness is not an act, it's a lifestyle. Okay? Like the whole idea of the rare social media post. Look at this great act, that one thing, your one great deed for the year you're going to highlight, and the rest of the day and the rest of your life is just all about you. It's a lifestyle. It should be normal for you to be nice. So if you are a bitter person, this is not really going to work out. Now, I am not talking about if you are suffering from loss or hard times. I'm not talking about that, and y'all know what I mean. Some people are bitter. They don't even know why they're bitter. Right? If you even asked them, they couldn't even tell you who did them wrong, because probably they think everybody did them wrong. Right? Okay, Galatians 6:2. Bear one another's burden. So we need to help each other. Bear each other's burden. Romans 12. Let love be without dissimulation. Now, what in the world does that mean? Well, basically it means be genuine. Don't be fake. If you're going to be good and do a loving act or deed for somebody, do it with a genuine heart. Don't be fake about it. 1 Peter 4:8 and 9. Above all things, fervent charity. Fervent. It's a great word. Fervent love. Fervent prayer. That means it's more serious, right? There's something deep about it. Above all things, have fervent charity among yourselves, for charity covers multitude of sins. Once again, this is not saying let's just hide your sin and put it away so nobody knows. This is when that sin occurs, we are going to do everything we can to pull you out of that pit in a loving way. And we're not going to constantly make you feel guilty about your sin once you've repented of it. Now, until that day, I'm going to annoy you about it. Hey, have you made yourself right with the Lord? Yeah. But once that person has done that, we're not going to bring it up. That's right. We're not going to bring it up. If your spouse does something wrong to you and he's asked for forgiveness, you better leave it alone. Right? You do not bring up the past. That does not help a marriage, does not help the church. Okay. Luke 10. That is our great example of the Good Samaritan, right? The unlikely person helped the man from Jerusalem. The unlikely person was the Samaritan. They normally did not get along. And then Matthew 25. Judgment Day is going to be interesting. We have no way to really pinpoint how it's going to be. We know that we're going to be judged by our words and by our actions. But in Matthew 25, there is a picture of judgment that is based on how we treat each other. And I think once again, people are going to be surprised on Judgment Day. Well, God, what does he say? Lord, did I not do this? Lord, did I not do this? But I did this, Lord. No, you didn't. And he says, when I saw a stranger, took you in naked and clothed you sick and in prison and came to see you. And as much as you've done to the least of these, my brethren, you've done it to me. A lot of these things he's talking about are things, it's basically you're going to have to get dirty. You're going to have to go to places you don't want to go to. Every Tuesday night, my husband teaches the Bible at a halfway house in Jackson. These are criminals that have gotten out, that are trying to rehabilitate. Every Monday night, he is with people that most people do not want to be around. And I have so much respect for my husband, because most of the church there doesn't even know he does this. It's not even something he technically has to do, but he does it. And whether a soul is saved from that or not, the Lord is going to look at my husband on Judgment Day and say, yep, you did it. You did what I asked. You got your hands dirty. You were uncomfortable. You were uncomfortable. You went to the halfway house. You went to the prison. You went on the mission trip. You flew on a plane. You sat with somebody at church you normally would not sit with. You noticed the visitors. You know who the visitors are because you know who the brethren are. And you talk to them. You invite people that are perfect strangers to lunch. This used to be common in our culture. My mother and my grandmothers would talk about this kind of thing. It used to be the visiting preacher would stay in the homes of the church members. Now they all stay in hotels. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying. But there used to be that sense of, I don't know who you are. Come on in. We'll feed you. Who cares? We'll feed you. We're so scared. But what if something did happen to us? I know what the Lord would say, right? We love the Lord as much as the person we love the least. Okay, let that sink in. I love the Lord as much as the person I love the least. So your measure, because in this passage he says, as much as you did it to the least of my brethren, you did it to me. So whatever I would do to the person that I thought was so low and not worth it, that's as much as I love the Lord. That's a hard measure, isn't it? And I'm preaching this to myself. Everything I'm telling you today, even raising my children, I have not yet perfected. So I am telling this to myself. Okay, now we're getting near the end, I promise. I know I'm hungry too. I love food, so I'm hungry with y'all. So I promise we'll eat here in a minute. This is something I like. Spread kindness like confetti. Just share it as you go. We have to teach it. Children are born selfish. Babies are born selfish. I didn't say they were born sinners. They're born selfish. Okay? I want this and I want this, and if you have it, it's still mine. Even if I never played with it, it's still mine. We teach them kindness, okay? It is taught. We must be on the lookout for random acts of kindness. This has been a thing years ago, random acts of kindness. Well, here is my admonition to you. Let's be intentional about our kindness. Why does it have to be some production that has to turn into a movie? It should just be something I do. I need to plan it, and we'll give some examples here in a minute. Practice makes perfect, okay? It's like if I want, in the military, you have to do so many push-ups to pass your PT test. Do you know the best way to improve the number of push-ups you do? Do push-ups. Physically, this is across the board. If I want to be better at running, got to run. If I want to be better at making foul shots, I need to shoot 100 foul shots every day. If I want to be able to do 50 push-ups in 2 minutes, then every day I'm going to do as many push-ups as I can. In the morning, noon, night, okay? So to be better at something, you actually have to do that thing. That's not rocket science, but so we have to practice. And then look around at others. You know, I am sure every one of you, there is somebody in your mind, and you can say, they are so good at that. Man, they write cards, they make food. Do what they do. Think about the kindest person you know at your congregation. Everybody got them? Do what they do. Okay. Kindness is always beautiful. You know, there are some girls that are drop dead gorgeous. You look at them, wow, she's pretty. And then she opens her mouth. Correct me if I'm wrong. Changes real quick. And then there's some girls, they're kind of plain Janes, you know, just plain. And then they open their mouth, and they're drop dead gorgeous. Isn't it true? Every one of us knows it's true, right? We need to teach that to our children. Kindness is always fashionable. I love that. Okay. J.F. Kennedy was famous for saying, ask not what you can do for your country, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. We can apply that to each other, right? In a selfish society today, it's the opposite, right? What can you do for me? And that's how children are being raised. What do I get out of it? Sheila Butt, she is a lady speaker in our sisterhood. And I heard her say this at an event one day, and it just got me. She said, instead of us walking into the room and saying, here I am, you walk into the room and say, there you are, there you are, there you are. It's not about me, it's about you. There you are. Right? I love that. Okay. Most of you probably have no idea who those people are, but I'm a product of the 80s. So if you are a product of the 80s, you'll know who they are. Anyway, it's an old movie, and I love Keanu Reeves. But anyway, side note. Okay, so who should we be kind to? Okay, the feeble. Some elderly people that are feeble, that require canes and stuff like that, they are scared to death to get out and go because they are afraid they're going to get run over. Okay? So we need to be kind to them and watch out for them and help them. Okay? The young, let's be kind. Little people learn it. I was talking to my one sister out here about little people learn what, I forget how we say it. They live what they've learned. They learn what they live, whatever. So little people are going to do what you do. Okay? So we need to be kind to them. Those that are scared, brokenhearted, new Christians. We're going to lose a lot of souls that are babes in Christ. Because, oh, got you dunked, you're good to go, and then we just leave them alone. That did nothing for them. In fact, it probably made it worse. We need to be kind. Guess what? They're not going to know everything. And if we stand back and slander and talk bad about our sisters who are new Christians, look at what they're wearing. Do they not know how to dress at church? I can't believe she did that. Do you know she does this? She's a new Christian. She doesn't know everything yet. You better be the one to teach her then. Don't you lose those Christians because of that behavior and that attitude. New moms, God bless new moms, especially with your first baby. It's rough. They need kindness. Healthcare workers need kindness. I promise they are not in the back room having a party while you're having to wait. No, they're saving many lives. Be kind. Some of them may have had what should have been a 12-hour shift and have been on shift for 21 hours. Be kind. Ministers, you have no idea what a minister does unless you are a child of one or married to one. My daddy is a preacher, and my husband is, and nobody can ever comprehend fully what they do. Elders, they carry the weight of the church. Good elders do things you you never know that they're doing behind the scenes. Good deacons, be kind. Teachers, be kind. Whew. New people, just new people to our congregations, visitors, loved ones. Sometimes we're the ugliest to our loved ones. We're nice to strangers, but we're mean to our loved ones. There's something wrong with that. Law enforcement. Our culture has made policemen look like the enemy. They are not the enemy. I'm here to tell you that. They put on a vest. They die for you. You be kind. I want my children to not be afraid of a police officer. I want my child to run to a police officer to save them if something's happening. EMS, firemen, our civil servants need kindness. When you see them out at the store, at the restaurant, my daddy has done this my whole life. He always pays for a police officer's lunch when we're out to eat. If he sees one, he takes the bill. If he sees a soldier, he takes the bill. They don't know he did it. You know who knows? Lord knows. Those that are suffering loss, we need to be kind. Everybody grieves differently. So one person is going to behave one way, and one's going to behave another. And they may both have experienced the same loss, but they're going to behave different. We need to be kind, okay? And then once we're often kindest to those we don't know, and so we need to be kind, especially to the household of faith, right? Okay. What are ways? Here is just an exhaustive list, I guess. Maybe you're thinking, I don't know what to do or how. Here you go. Make a meal. Write a letter. Letter writing is outdated. When was the last time you had a handwritten letter? But wouldn't you love it? Don't you love handwritten letters? And not bills? Or advertisements in the mail? In college, the biggest thing was to go to the mailbox. And nowadays, they don't even care. I love handwritten letters. Give up something meaningful of yours to give somebody else joy. Go to the hospital. The only way your children are going to know what it's like to visit somebody at the hospital, guess what? Is for you to take them. The nursing home. Take flowers to somebody. Sit and listen. Be the one that builds somebody up. Do the dirty work. Maybe you need to do the yard work for somebody who needs it, or clean somebody's home. Call somebody. Just call them, just to talk to them. I have a good friend who she goes through the list of the shut-ins, and on their birthday, she has her 3 little children sing happy birthday to them. That's Rose Banks, for my friends that know her. I'm like, yeah, you're a better mom than me. That's when I can learn from my sister what she does. She has her children sing happy birthday to the shut-in. Give a special gift. Talk to the person who's being ignored. Speak to visitors. Involve people in your activities. If you're going out to lunch with your friends and you see the new member or the new Christian who's by themselves, have them come with you. Forgive. That's a great act of kindness, isn't it? Just to forgive. And when somebody comes forward or somebody repents, you better hug them and love them and help them and tell them that you are there for them. Because you know what? That could easily be you. And it is all of us, because none of us is perfect, right? Give up your time. Get the facts straight. If you know something, the kind thing to do would be like, not too sure about that information, so I'm not going to repeat that, right? Don't prejudge. There is a time to judge righteously. Did you know that? The same chapter that says, judge not, you read about 20 verses later, it says, judge righteously. It's not a contradiction. Don't prejudge. Don't make assumptions, right? See the best in others. See the best. Don't see the worst. Just see the best. We all have things that people don't like. And I tell Haley's my best friend, and I don't know how she does it, because I am not perfect, and and we are so different, but I think that's why we're friends, because I need her to balance out my craziness. I don't know. Read to a child. What a great act of kindness for a child, just to read, you know, or maybe even someone older that never learned how. Okay, so we're almost wrapping it up here. Okay, so always be a little kinder than necessary. That's a good thing to live by, right? And then we've all read Aesop's fables. Apparently, he said this: no act of kindness, however small, is ever wasted, right? Even the littlest things. I'll tell you a great act of kindness. I'll give you a good example for me, and I haven't forgotten it. So I do have 5 children, and we actually lost a baby after my first child. And when that happened, a girl I go to church with, she came to my house with a basket full of like bath salts and soaps and goodies, and I have never forgotten it. You know? So things like that, it is not wasted, you know? And I actually texted her the other day, 2 of my friends that had come to see me when that happened. I texted them both this week, and I said, do you know what? I just needed you to know I was thinking about that thing you did for me 9 years ago, and I have not forgotten it. Be an encourager. The world has enough critics already. I mean, you just turn on the TV, that's all it is. Even if you agree with whatever agenda is up there, they're all so mean and critical. I hate that. That's why I try not to watch the news, you know? Okay, being kind to yourself. Let me go over a couple more things. I promise I'm almost done. It's only now 12, so we're good. I love this quote. Do not speak badly of yourself, for the warrior within hears you, hears your words, and is lessened by them. I've had students that were always like, oh, I'm so dumb, Miss Cook, or I can't do that, Miss Cook, and I said, stop right now. Stop talking bad about yourself, because you know what? You're exactly right. Whatever you say about yourself, that's how it's going to be. Self-talk is a counseling strategy. Genesis 1:27, we are made in whose image? And if I think bad of myself, what does that mean? I think about the Lord. I think bad about him too. That he, in his perfectness, created something imperfect. I am made in his image. We need to teach our daughters that, and our sons. You are made in the image of God. You wonder why people are atheists today, why people are struggling with their faith, because they don't believe this. You're made in the image of God. Do you know your soul is worth more than the world and everything in it? Matthew 16:26, you are worth something. Romans 5, once again, Christ died for who? The ungodly, sinners. We were worth it to him. He saw value in us. We are worth it. What an insult to God, the Maker, for us to think less of ourselves. Our society has 2 bookends that reflect this. We wonder why suicide rates are going up. One end is abortion. One end is euthanasia. We're going to kill them before they ever have a chance, and we're going to kill them when they're worthless. They can't contribute to society anymore. They're too old, they're too feeble, they can't work, they don't contribute. Euthanasia. The Netherlands has legalized euthanasia. We're going to kill them here. They're all made in the image of God. And if there was ever a political issue I would be happy to talk to anybody about, it's abortion. I don't care why you got pregnant. I know it's a soul. And so help me, you better protect it. And I will fight for any and all babies. And we all know there are parents who want children so bad, and they would be happy to run to New York right now and take every last one of those babies off your hands. So we need to be careful. You want to know why suicide rates are high? Because the young people today realize we don't care about them. We're killing them. We may have had the cure for cancer already. Millions of people have been murdered in the last how many years? More than all the wars put together, we've aborted babies. We can go on and on. That is why suicide rates are high, just so you know. Because our culture has devalued the person. Why do they think they're important? Atheism. There's no God. Why am I important? Why wouldn't they think that's a way to handle the situation? Take care of your body. That's how you can be kind to yourself. Feel pretty. If you like red lipstick, put it on. I love sparkly eyeshadow. My patients usually comment on my sparkly eyeshadow. Take time to pray. Find mental relief. Get away. Like I did from the babies. I'm here with the girls. It doesn't require as much time. Express your emotions. Find a friend to talk to. Do something you enjoy, like read a book, drink coffee, whatever. Play, if you like to play ball, whatever. Do something you enjoy. Spend time with friends. Read for pleasure. Recognize what you're good at. All of us are good at something. Recognize it. And forgive yourself. You have to be able to forgive yourself. If God has given you, don't take that power away from God and not forgive yourself. And then remember you're a child of God. Couple things. I know I keep saying a couple things. Okay. What kindness is not? It's not weakness. It's not ignoring sin. Let me point this one out specifically. Kindness is not ignoring sin. If sin needs to be addressed, we're going to address it. Did you know you can be angry and not sin? Right? Be angry, sin not. I hope sin upsets me and makes me angry. The Lord turned over tables, didn't he? Over sin. Kindness does not make you a pushover. It does not mean you have to compromise your beliefs. It does not lift punishment. I can go take and read and talk to the people in prison, and I can be kind to them, but they're still going to have to serve their sentence, right? Kindness is not self-seeking. It does not have an agenda. And it does not show partiality. Okay. Mean girls. I don't like mean girls. It is very unflattering and unattractive. Note to self for our young ladies. If you want to look pretty, be nice. Because being a mean girl makes you ugly real quick. Be kind anyway. Overcome evil with good. And call them out. Nathan did a great thing for King David, and he called him out on his sin. Sometimes we have to do that. And every mama has probably said this. If you can't say something nice, don't say it at all. We all still say it. We need to do better. So, strong people don't put others down. I love that quote. Okay. Two last things I'll say. Okay. By this shall all men know that you're my disciples if you have one for another. So I love The Lord of the Rings and I love Harry Potter. And these are two quotes from those two stories and movies. In Lord of the Rings, one of the characters says, I have found it is the small things, everyday deeds of ordinary folk that keep the darkness at bay, simple acts of kindness and love. Isn't that the truth? And then from Harry Potter, if you want to know what a man is like, take a good look at how he treats his inferiors and not his equals. Isn't that the truth? How we treat the least of these and how we treat the most. Because we're all souls in the eyes of God, right? My little anecdote to end on this. And by the way, if you did want the PowerPoint or any of the materials, you can find me, or I know some of you aren't from here, but me or Crystal, and maybe give us your email, and I'll email you any of this, okay? There is a poem, and I'm going to end on this poem, and I should have given a copy of this to Crystal, called My Kate, all right? And it's by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. So listen to this and see if you think this person sounds like a kind person. Okay. She was not as pretty as women I know, and yet all your best made of sunshine and snow drop to shade, melt to naught in the long-trodden ways, while she's still remembered on warm and cold days, my Kate. Her air had a meaning, her movements a grace. You turned from the fairest to gaze on her face. And when you had once seen her forehead and mouth, you saw as distinctly her soul and her truth, my Kate. Such a blue inner light from her eyelids outbroke. You looked at her silence and fancied she spoke. When she did, so peculiar yet soft was the tone, though the loudest spoke also, you heard her alone, my Kate. I doubt if she said to you much that could act as a thought or suggestion. She did not attract in the sense of the brilliant or wise. I infer 'twas her thinking of others made you think of her, my Kate. She never found fault with you, never implied your wrong by her right, and yet men at her side grew nobler, girls purer, as through the whole town the children were gladder that pulled at her gown, my Kate. None knelt at her feet, confessed lovers enthralled. They knelt more to God than they used, that was all. If you praised her as charming, some asked what you meant, but the charm of her presence was felt when she went, my Kate. The weak and the gentle, the ribald and rude, she took as she found them and did them all good. It always was so with her. See what you have. She has made the grass greener even here at her grave, my Kate. And so when I do this, I tell people, put your name in that blank instead of my Kate. Could that be said of me at my funeral? You know? Isn't that sweet? Okay, thank you so much for being here and allowing me to speak to you. And I just love you all already. We're already BFFs. But yes, if you want any of the material, just let me know. And thank you so much. I love you and hope you've learned something. I've learned something. And thanks again for having me.